How did I go from being afraid of any little bugs or critters and not being an outdoors person to starting a garden and raising chickens? Well, let's talk about it. We're going to talk about why I decided to start a garden with no prior knowledge. Today, we're actually doing a little garden maintenance. I had my husband help me with a few things, so he's making a guest appearance on the channel today. First things first, if you're new here, my name is Jasmine. I am a wife and a mother of 2. I have a 4-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy. I put a pause on my career almost 4 years ago to stay at home once I became a mother. And it really took years for me to find my place and see the value in what I contribute to the home as a homemaker. Transitioning from working full-time to becoming a stay-at-home mom can really be a tough transition. But once you wrap your mind around the fact that your identity is in Christ and not in your job title, you can confidently step into your role as a homemaker. Now that the introduction is out of the way, let's talk about gardening. Just to give a little backstory, before I became a mom, I was really big on health and wellness. Health and wellness is still a priority for me. It just looks a lot different these days with all of the responsibilities that I have accumulated over the years. I have always been interested in healthier food options, but within the past few years, I have had a desire to buy fresh fruits and vegetables from local farmers. So currently I live in a small town, so farmers markets are hard to come by. I did end up finding a couple of farmers markets, but shopping at farmers markets for all of your produce can get very expensive. It can be very pricey. So this year I decided that if I wasn't able to buy all of my produce from local farmers, I am going to learn how to grow it myself. My garden currently consists of tomatoes, cucumbers, jalapenos, squash, basil, parsley, strawberries, and eggplants. Now, I have big hopes and dreams for my garden. One day I hope to have a much larger garden than what I have now. But everyone has to start somewhere, right? This is my first year gardening with zero experience, so we decided to keep the garden small. I like to think of my first year gardening as my trial run. I joined gardening Facebook groups, and throughout all of the advice I have read, I have concluded that gardening is a lot of work, and I'm slowly starting to see that with my own garden. So this particular day, we did a lot of garden maintenance that was on our to-do list. So we spent about 3 to 4 hours outside. If nothing else, gardening is great for exercise. So I have about 7 or 8 tomato plants. Initially, I didn't even realize that I had that many tomato plants, but I planted them too close together. I also did not realize how big tomato plants get. So my husband helped me move 3 of the tomato plants into pots to give them the space that they need. We got the planters from Lowe's. They are just the basic black ones. And if I remember correctly, they were priced between $6 to $8. We also had some bamboo sticks that we weren't using. So my husband cut those and we added them to the tomato plants to support the weight of the plant. And we just used string to tie the plant to the bamboo stick. Our cucumbers were starting to grow out of the garden bed, so my husband used some of the leftover bamboo sticks to create a trellis that would support the cucumbers and help them grow vertically. These are actually pickling cucumbers, so I'm so excited to learn how to make my own pickles. My goal is to become that homemaker that makes food from scratch. As a mother and a wife, I have always felt that I am responsible for my family's health. Now, I know there can be some things that are out of my control, but I am cooking 95% of the meals in our home. So I want to provide meals that provide my family with the nutrients they need and not fill them with ingredients that will harm them. I know cooking 100% from scratch is a process and it's very hard to do when you have small children. But I'm giving myself grace, and I often remind myself that seasons come and go. One day I will be in a season that allows me to cook from scratch, but with toddlers, that's just not always realistic. Nevertheless, I do what I can, and I am enjoying the journey of learning how to be a little better in the kitchen. The last thing I did for this garden maintenance day was pruning. I did a little research to see what I needed to do to maintain the plants and learn how to prune them. The experts say to prune the lower side branches as well as the suckers. I will put a picture on the screen of what these suckers are. So I did that with all of the tomato plants. I also pruned the basil. With the basil, I learned that you want to prune them to prevent them from flowering. Once the basil starts to flower, it can slow down the growth. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you made it into the end of the video, leave the plant emoji down in the comment section. I appreciate your support more than you know. Make sure you are subscribed and turn on that post notification bell so you won't miss the next upload. I'll see you soon.